Hello, all you positive heads out there. It's so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we are super happy to have you here, and we just ask that you bring an open mind and heart to your listening experience and to be prepared to explore vantage points that I'm convinced will help shift or solidify your current understanding of the ultimate nature of reality in a way that is extremely empowering. Speaking of exploring powerful perspectives, I'm super excited to announce the release of my very first book, The Golden Key: Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. If you're ready to alchemize the circumstances in your life so that your abundance expands to an entirely new level in 2021, head over to goldenkey.gift to download the audio or ebook as my gift to you by using the code POSITIVEHEAD. Yeah, why don't we just go ahead and, it looks like this might be the smallest one, which doesn't hurt my feelings at all. I love intimate. Why don't you want to tell us a little bit about what's been going on with you? I mean, you already have, I guess, started, but...
Sure, yeah. So just getting certified in EFT, emotional freedom tapping, and we have to do like 50 hours. So I've been just giving away sessions and I'm really close to finishing. And EFT has just really been changing my life, just like really instilling all the things that especially I've gained from positive heads and all that. Like now it's just like, that was all like surface level. Now it's like, really programming that into the body and being like, yep, here it is.
That's why I wanted to, get with Sonia, all those years ago, is because it's such a perfect, like, physical activity to, it's like goes perfectly with all the, informational sort of stuff. It's like just grounding things into the body.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And like the more and more I do it, the more I'm like, wow, I see how my mind would, create limiting beliefs. And I can't believe I believe that for so long.
Yeah. Right. Right. Wow. Lane or Jonathan, have either of you ever done EFT?
I haven't.
Yeah. Are you familiar?
Yeah, I know I've heard about it in your podcast, but I don't know anything aside from that.
Well, there you go. Corey needs to practice.
Yeah, I've done a little bit through the podcast, of course, and then I'm in an entrepreneur group here in Emeryville, or in the East Bay, Berkeley area. And one of the people who attends that, we did a potluck in person for years and years, but now we're doing it through Zoom. But he's some sort of certification EFT, so we've done a little bit of tapping session here and there, but very limited. So Corey's the man.
Cool. Well, who has anything? I mean, what's great about it when it's being this small is it's all the good things that come with something being intimate. I know, Lane, you said you don't have the whole time. So I don't know if there's anything that you would care to share, anything that's been challenging for you, anything that you want to chat about, why we have this precious time with you today.
Yeah. So the last time I came to one of these, I think it was April. And I basically asked, how can I feel better in my body? And several people told me to do yoga. So I've started doing yoga, and I do already feel so much better in my body. And I asked because I've started to pursue musical theater. And so the reason I have to leave early is because I have an audition tonight.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah. So I'm pretty excited, but yeah, it's going well for me. And, I kind of just assume that it will continue to. It feels like the path that I've been looking for, but I didn't find it until my voice dropped, which for me, since I'm transgender, so my voice dropped when I started taking hormones, which was 5 years ago. So I discovered a love of singing at that time, and then it's like this whole new world has opened, and I'm heading down in this new direction, and it's been really great. I went to like a cabin in the woods recently for like 3 days, and it was like a big reset for me, and had some kind of crazy stuff then happen, like spiritually. Like I was listening, Brandon, I looked up like what the most popular episode of your podcast was.
Uh-huh.
And
What was it? I don't even know.
I'll tell you because I saved it, because I've listened to it a bunch of times since then. But it's let me find it in my Spotify. It's episode 825. It's called Happiness is a Choice, Not an Outcome.
Wow.
And you talk about that, but also like how important breathing is, like the breath and breathing in abundance.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to this, and I was listening to it like I was taking a bath. They had a really nice bathtub at the place I was staying. And I was like listening to it and kind of not paying attention, and I tried to change it. And I tried to change this episode. Like, I swear I hit the button like 15 times. And the universe was like, nope. No,
not getting off that easy.
Yeah. And so while you're talking about like how important breath is and like breathing in all this abundance, you know, I start to like naturally just start thinking, breathing in abundance. And I felt like I left my body in that moment. It was like I was up and like astral projected out, and it was amazing.
Wow, that's incredible, isn't it? Isn't it so inspiring to know that like we can shift, and it's like all these energies are they're not as tangible as like the desk in front of me, but they're real nonetheless. And like once we start to realize like, oh, I have access to it, it's just a matter of like finding the right, you know, twisting the right knobs, right? And then when you get like a validation that's really powerful like that, right? Where it's just like, oh my gosh, what just happened? You know, it's like, oh, this is a whole nother world that I can access that I haven't been, you know, tapping into. So that's huge. Wow. How long did that happen?
It was about a week and a half ago. I stayed in the cabin in the woods for a few nights. And another crazy thing that happened while I was there is, well, at that same time, when I astral projected all the way up, like this thought came to my mind, like, which came first, the chicken or the egg, you know? And then I saw this, I'm trying to get my, this picture that I saw, because it's, you know, is it Vajra did this?
Yeah, that's the painting that's in my room.
Yeah, it's my phone background. So I saw that, and it was like, well, I created Earth, so I was first, so I'm the chicken. And
wow.
Woo! What? Like,
now you know who that is supposed to be, right?
Yeah, the demiurge.
The demiurge,
right?
Yeah, the creator being that brought order to the chaos of creation, essentially. You know, it's like. Wow, how awesome. Corey, and Jonathan, that's the original of that piece is on my wall.
Yeah.
Right? Just a few feet away from where I'm at right now.
Definitely remember.
You know what's interesting is that piece, there's actually a yang piece to it. Like when he originally started creating it, he created, if you go onto Vajra's Instagram, I think he posted it recently. It's like a much darker version of that character. And it's like they're like mirrored each other, like, you know, like one, you know, their heads are opposite, and they connect in the middle of the page, you know, like at the torsos. And it's really interesting because, you know, I obviously really relate, and I always say, oh, that's my multidimensional selfie, you know, that's like a photograph, a higher self photograph. And so whenever you think about like the shadow part of ourselves, you know, which is definitely something that I had in a channeling experience a few weeks back with a friend who's been opening up to channeling, and she was talking about like, look, you're going to have to face like sort of the shadow part of self and this sort of thing. So then and then Vajra posted soon after that the other half of the image. Yeah. Oh yeah. There it is. Yeah. Can you zoom it a little bit so they can see it? It's a little hard to see with the.
I'm all the way up in my camera.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So yeah, you can see it's like he's much more. His mouth is definitely scarier, and So it's an interesting, symbology to think about. It's what we are isn't for the faint of heart. Jonathan, what's been going on with you, my friend?
Well, it's been a really good month. I would say things have just been really blissful and
Yeah.
just in the energy of abundance all the way through. It's like just being present to what presents.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been good.
I like that. That's a really good way to say it, being present to what presents.
Yeah. I mean, a quick example of that. Remember last month, was it Kristen? It might have been one of the others, but they talked about the Book of Secrets, and I just happened to have. I was like, oh, there it is on my. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the same thing kind of happened here when Lane talked about his acting and musical acting and all that. And there's a book that's literally, my phone is right beyond this. And right there is a book called Improvising Real Life.
Oh.
The author is Joe, J.O. Salas, S-A-L-A-S. And two things to comment on that. It's a really good book, but I probably haven't looked at it for, I don't know, a dozen or more years. But it's about basically enacting, doing improv, but it's based on what's happening in your life and, helping to release emotions and kind of explore things and so forth. So
wow.
I thought I'd bring that up to you, Lane. I don't know if the book's still available, but I know it was really powerful. A friend of mine who was in the Bay Area up until extremely recently was an actress and very creative, and theoretically we were going to maybe get into doing something with that. But it's why I'm bringing this up is that it's like being present to what's present. It's like as soon as you said that, I softened my gaze, and there was that book. So it's like the gifts, the presents are everywhere. And the other layer to this, just more internal, is like I couldn't quite read the name of the author when I first peeked at it, and then I continued listening to what everyone was saying in the meantime. And it was like after a couple minutes, the name Joe Salas, S-A-L-A-S, came into my head.
Wow.
And it's like, wow, let me see if that's the author, and it is.
Wow.
So yeah,
cool.
it's like when we have infinite abundance, we have resources there that we potentially aren't even conscious of in a given moment. But if we have an overall co-creative, or it relates to all sorts of things, being vulnerable, being open, all these different elements. So I've been kind of exploring and playing with this on the day-to-day. It's like a lot of, you could call it synchronicity, but it's almost more like a growing thing. It wasn't a synchronicity that book was there, but because he brought it up, I enabled a co-creative thing. And maybe it'll, like you mentioned on the podcast a couple days ago, you meet somebody in the coffee shop or whatever it was, and maybe your one or two words had a huge impact. So I don't know, Lane, maybe you'll not even find that book. Maybe it's out of print. I don't know, but still putting it out there. That's what love is about, and openness is about.
Love that.
So, yeah.
What was the name of the book? I got the author's name, but
yeah, it's Improvising Real Life.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that. That was such a great share, Jonathan.
Thank you.
I think you're really tapping into that calm superpower of just, being present to what presents, and just like not overly attached to any sort of outcome or thing, and just with that childlike wonder, like, I'm just open, and I'm noticing a pattern or connecting a dot or seeing where something all of a sudden feels like there's maybe an energetic tie, maybe not. Overly attached to it. Not going to give it too much of a story to, try and project onto it, right? That's one of the things that you have to be really cautious with all of this. I know for me, it's like, okay, don't, you know, I find myself sometimes if I start telling a story that doesn't serve or that's too intense in a way that's not really the right way to, oh, I can release that. Oh, hold on. What are you doing? Just let that go. You don't need to, oh, you're getting attached to an outcome or an expectation. Oh, well, let that go. I'm going to soften. And you definitely have a lot of that energy, a lot of that medicine that, many of us need, Jonathan. So thank you for that. Lane, I was also going to say,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. Lane, I was also going to say, I thought of when you first started talking, have you seen this Bo Burnham?
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah.
it? Oh my God. It's so good.
One of my friends learned one of the songs from it, and the chord progression is D-E-A-D.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
like, I was playing it, and then I realized, and I was like, "Ooh,
Wow,
yikes."
because he kind of talks about suicidal stuff and everything. And are you guys familiar with Bo Burnham or this? Yeah,
No.
this
I wanna watch
guy.
it with spoilers.
Yeah, it's like
You gotta watch it.
it's called Inside. Is that
Yeah.
what it's called, Lane? On Netflix, it's this guy, just musical comedy. He's locked himself in a room over COVID for a year and just put this, and it's genius, And he just, the way he sort of breaks, what do they call it? The third wall? Is that what it's called, Lane? You probably know, or the fourth wall, or
Fourth wall. Yeah.
fourth wall. Yeah, breaks the fourth wall, and just as like, it's like this very raw and polished, because he's super talented and honed his craft of, it's kind of like, a much cooler Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very, very cool. I think a lot of people are appreciating it. It seems, hearing a bit about it. I watched it the other day and definitely enjoyed it. So, well, what else, guys? For guys' night, what else do we talk about here? Who else has something? Anything that has been a particular challenge? I mean, what I love is everyone seems and feels like they're doing really, really good. Oh, I know one other thing I wanted to offer too, Lane, is, you're talking about really getting into your body, and then here's Corey, who's just done this thing that's all about like tapping into the sensations in the body, with this simple but powerful technique. So perhaps that is, you've added yoga under your belt. Maybe there's a subtle urging from the universe to explore EFT.
EFT, yeah. I should look into it more. I'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the yoga's been great for me.
Yeah, I just joined a gym for the first time in a very long time again. And I'm not a huge fan of the vibes at gyms, and here in Venice Beach, it's like famous. It's like a famous Gold's Gym, like, like Muscle Beach, kind of like you have Arnold Schwarzenegger on the wall, like with the, the 1970s poses and stuff. But it's really been nice because over COVID, they opened up the outside too. And so there's so much room and machines and, it's, I've actually enjoyed it way more than I have in the past, surprisingly so. So it's, definitely something to be said for focusing on the physical body,
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up, especially those of us who are, on this path and have such an interest in the internal world, developing our internal self. It's like, and then sort of like treating the body like the low priority. And it's like, it's all spiritual, right? It's all a part of it. So. Well, what else, folks? Who else has something, anything that's been a particular troubling
I have
thing? Yeah,
question perhaps for you.
sure.
Something that's been kind of bubbling up for me has actually been around leadership.
Mhm.
And there's this thing that's coming up around like the desire for leadership, well, to be in leadership, but also the fear of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been this thing around like, I think the shadow of being a leader and like the responsibility that comes into play, especially within the conscious community. Because I'm seeing a lot of these kind of conscious leaders who, they speak, so many beautiful things, but then they're not doing the work, or maybe they start, taking advantage of people or manipulating. And it kind of concerns me, because it's like, oh, something that I want to do is facilitate and help people and,
Mm-hmm.
do that kind of work. But then there's the fear of like, oh, what happens when, like the spiritual ego develops, and, I'm not tracking it. And also just like to be able to like hold all of that for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And as someone like yourself who relatively, I would say, is a leader. I don't know if you would consider that, but
Yeah, I would
just
say.
curious what you would say on that topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great question. And it's something that I've definitely had some issues with. I've not always loved the way some people step into their leadership, and as a result of all, you got to be careful too, not to play small because of someone else, abusing their leadership ability or power, or so what I think with that is not doing it because you've seen someone else do it in a way that you don't appreciate. Oh, someone else just jumped in. Hold on. Okay, I think, let's see, Rachel. Rachel, you here?
Yes, I am. I'm not able to put my video on today, but I can listen.
Oh, okay. How are you?
Doing good.
You just jumped in where Corey was asking about leadership and how to kind of deal with as he's wanting to step into more of a leadership role in his own life and in the community, and also not wanting to be like maybe some that are out there who are apparently maybe abusing their power, or their egos gets the best of them, And so I was just kind of giving my 2.5 cents on that, where I think it's definitely something. It's almost like a stopping off point for all of us at some point in our journey. I think that was I just referenced earlier the channeling experience I had. Well, someone channeling, bringing through messages to me weeks back, and they were like, look, you're going to have to face your shadow self, in a kind of an intense way. And it's all tied into the ego. Surprise, surprise, as I watched a documentary recently. I forget which network, it's on Hulu or something. It's by the guy who created WeWork. Have you guys heard of WeWork? Mm-hmm. It's like it's like he basically took buildings and would rent them out and make it like super like communal, hip, so and it blew up, and he raised like $4 billion or something. I mean, that's a lot of money to raise this investment. And it got to where he just, people start buying their own BS. We're like, oh, anything I touch is gold. Oh, now I'm going to reinvent education. Now I'm going to, save the moon. Like, it just gets like ridiculous. Like where it's like, dude, you rent office space with a fancy title. Like, it's real estate. Like, it's cool, but, and you see it happen all the time. I mean, you take a great, like we talked about the Book of Secrets, someone like Osho, who I think is one of the most profound teachers there's ever been, is from what he's so wise and inspiring. And, he had 80 Rolls Royces by the time he died. And we all, those of us who've seen Wild Wild Country and see what a shit show his, commune turned into in Oregon or wherever it was. And it's like, okay, I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That was a soul here still growing. And from my perspective, I think there's some major ego work. Still, I heard someone one time say, and I haven't ever verified or looked to see if it's true. They said the last thing he kind of said before he passed was, you can never actually get rid of the ego. It's just like a lifetime of keeping it in its, in its lane. So I think that's and that's what came through Corey with that same channeling was like, hey, your biggest challenge is going to be your ego with like the ascent that you'll experience. And these beings, supposed beings, that we're communicating, were like, even for us, it's a big challenge, And so I think that's sort of a rite of passage for all of us, because at the end of the day, as we get better, more in tune with our authentic power, the more, you can kind of see like, whoa, I really got something special flowing through me. And then it's like, but when that turns into, and therefore I'm better than you, or I'm, once you realize, yes, you can move into a leadership role and I'm sure there's a lot you could teach me. And in that moment, I'd be the student. And then in another moment, though, there's probably a lot I can teach you. And then you'd be the student. And it's like, and you may move into a role where you're the leader and the teacher more often than not. Great. But don't get it twisted. You know what I mean? Like, you are it all. And the more you want real power, true power is lifting others up. That, that humility. And so I would never let seeing people get it wrong be the reason you don't even, pursue it. That is a huge, huge mistake. Like, actually use it as an inspiration. I'm going to go that path and I am going to get it right. For me, it's like, I see a lot of the things with peers and people I've even had on the show. And, it's like, wow, there's a lot of ego stuff happening there, and, oh, what a great reflection, Brandon. You do not want to be that, And if you ever slip off the wagon or have a moment being too full of yourself, like, oh, okay, that's okay. I'm going to, every moment's another chance to turn it all around and catch myself. And so, yeah, that's my thoughts to you is, that healthy level of self-awareness around this stuff is so important, and don't let it go too far the other way, where it then is the reason you keep yourself small. Oh, I'm going to show how small I can play to everyone. Just because I want everyone to know how cool and genuine I am. That's something that I've definitely had to catch myself on sometimes. Like, okay, just you must be what you can be, and finding the most graceful way to get there, never shrinking yourself and never over puffing yourself up. That's the path. And is that going to be a journey that's super simple? No, just always, and as you get, it's like, I know for myself, like, I remember years back, a business partner gave me a book, Cult Leadership 101, like joking, like, oh, you're going to run a cult one day, kind of thing. It's like, I know if I used my ability to, persuade or influence or, negative manipulation, I could do a lot of weird shit, I could do a lot of weird shit. And it's just like, hey, and at the end of the day, who's the real jackass if I did? Me. Who's going to be bitten by it? Me. It's like every time I see someone now that is like really caught up in their ego stuff, I'm just like, oh man, like my brother says, like, the universe is a respecter of no man. Like, prepare for your, cosmic pops to put you over the knee and you're going to get spanked. Like, it's coming, like, it's coming. And so I think just you going the path and just really honoring what you're feeling and just like anything, as you go down the path of leadership, at first it's probably like, oh, am I not worthy? Am I, all that stuff. It's like, just step into it and be vulnerable and it's fine to share, like, hey, like, I remember the first recording of Optimistic, Lane, I remember saying, hey, I'm not slick at this at all. I'm like, I'm doing this and it's a stretch. And by the time, recording 15 times, standing up there, it's just like, I could, it's like the podcast, same thing, it's like your nervous system acclimates to you being in that role that is maybe new and foreign and feels like a stretch at first. So just know going into any of it, like, oh, of course my nervous system's going to be, it's supposed to be That's how it works. And then it's just like going to the gym. That first time trying to push that much weight, you're just like, oh gosh, I have way too many bologna sandwiches in my past. And next thing you know, like you get that strength, you know, you get used to it. And so, yeah, that's my long-winded response to your inquiry.
Thank you.
Before we continue on with today's episode, I'd like to take a moment to share an exciting new development in my world that can benefit those of you who are itching to get out there and travel as we begin to emerge from the COVID chrysalis. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, at some point you've most likely heard me talk about my personal hero's journey tale regarding the fastest growing private travel company I co-founded that imploded back in 2015. Well, out of the ashes of that challenging lesson, my brother and I started a new travel company called Hello Vacay. And an exciting new chapter has just unfolded in my travel company saga as Hello Vacay recently secured a huge partnership with the world's largest online travel agency, Priceline. Essentially, due to our past success working with them all those years ago, they have agreed to give us access to their deeply discounted private wholesale booking rates. Our new site at hellovacay.com is sort of like the Costco for hotel and alternate accommodations because it allows anyone to get access to these wholesale rates, which are up to 50% off the normal booking rates you'll find on all the other major online travel sites. The only caveat is that they won't let us display these rates publicly because they're so much lower than even what you would see at Priceline.com. So to offer them, they insisted that we have a paid membership for people to get access to these much lower rates. However, since I love you all for listening to me moan about this story for all these years, we're setting you up with 50% off the monthly or annual membership fees when you use the code POSITIVEHEAD. So with the code, you'll get the first month free just to check it out and see what it's all about. And then it's like $4 a month to get access to savings that can easily add up to thousands of dollars a year if you travel with any regularity. I personally saved over $200 in one weekend when I went to Seattle not too long ago. So once again, if you plan to travel at all in the future, be sure to check out hellovacay.com. That's HELLOVACAY.com. Use the code POSITIVEHEAD, all one word, for a free month trial at checkout. And then after that month, the pHead 50% discount will kick in. And as you may guess, I would say next, journey well, everyone.
Yeah, it's that I hear all of that in such a reflective way, because that's certainly something that's been coming up around, like, fear of the spiritual ego, because like I got back from another retreat I was doing, and it's like shamanic death, so you're killing the ego and you're killing all these things, and it's beautiful, and I came out with like full love, open heart and everything, and like then it's like I start to talk to people, and maybe I pop in here and there with this path. And and then I like catch myself. I'm like, no, there is no singular path. Like everybody has their own path.
This option. I'm passionate about this one.
Yeah, right. And like that's where I guess I'm also like making sure that I don't go there, because I've seen like I have this guy who he's in my ecstatic dance community who very much wants attention. Like his whole thing is, I want to be seen, I want to be heard, I am very smart. And I can see where I'm like, reflection, it's me. And then it's just like, okay, now I have to look at that, because clearly there's a part of me that like wants people to know like I have the answers, but also like, well, you don't have to follow me if you don't want to. So
yeah. And I may have a perspective. It may be an answer that really works well for you, and maybe not someone else. And I think the idea with, I know it's a big thing. This sort of, we got to kill our ego, and I don't really subscribe to that so much. I think the ego is EGO, everybody's greatest obstacle. It's one of the most difficult, challenging things for us to keep in its lane in our life. However, I think it's necessary. It's like for us to be for me to be Brandon, I have to have an ego identity. For me to play, if I'm going to come into the world of the realm of duality, the physical dimension, and we're going to experience this unique way of pretending like we're, the five of us are in this conversation right now, we created some ego identity with some uniqueness and difference. And so I think just keeping it, really, always checking in with Corey, if you're always checking in with what is the motivation behind what I'm doing, and constantly going back to that. Okay, I'm passionately talking about this thing right now. Is that because I'm, being an egomaniacal a-hole, or is it because I'm really passionate about this? What was my intention with this share about here's the way I think it should be? Well, my intention was really good. Am I saying they're Am I open to the idea that it may or may not be for them? Yeah. Okay. So you're like kind of checking yourself, And if you're constantly checking yourself, you may find yourself every now and then where it's like, oh, I was a little out of alignment there. Okay. Adjust. It's this dance of adjusting, but it's when people aren't ever checking and then they get a lot of external validation. Like, how many people does it ruin to get that? I mean, can you imagine being a, young Justin Bieber, and just like, oh, you're the best thing since sliced bread, and your brain isn't even fully developed, and everyone's catering to you, all these adults. Like, I mean, it's just like, what a challenging thing that is to navigate for your ego. Luckily for us, none of us have had that. You've experienced humility. You've experienced being the low guy on the totem pole to some degree. We all have, so I think that really empowers us as we expand into more influence and leadership. To don't forget where you came from. Don't forget this is a part of you too. And what is my intention with what I'm doing? Oh, okay. My intention is in the right place. How can I then deliver? That's really all I do my best to do is how do I deliver the information as gracefully as possible, too. And when you get too in your ego and it's it's steering the ship as opposed to your heart, in my head and ego more than my heart, then that's when it can start seeming abrasive and ugly and judgmental and like it's felt, right? And so just a constant surveilling of oneself. Anyone else have anything to add on that?
I just want to say I have to head out now, but thank you so much, as always, for all.
Of course. Thank you, Lane.
Thank you for being here, Lane.
See you next time.
Lots of love.
Bye for now. Rachel, you still there? Nope, looks like Rachel's muted. Rachel's just listening in.
I'm still here.
Oh, cool. Have anything that you care to discuss or comment on, or any great, exciting shares or challenges? I mean, anything is game.
Yeah, I'm going to talk kind of quiet because we're like going through Menards. So I'm like totally committed to this, but I'm in a truck. So we're like going through the gate here. Okay. So it's funny. I forgot this was happening. It's like, oh, I want to jump on. And of course you're talking about something that I, have been struggling with the last week. So I'm a freelance graphic designer. I, do work for other people all the time. And so I've, so to speak, have, played small to a degree, and I was like, I have time now that I can create my own brand. I'm talented enough. I have this. Why am I not doing this? Especially now that I feel like I have a specific vision that I want to share with other people. Okay, one second, please. Okay. Yes, you can. And so now that I'm like, there's a reason why I haven't gone on my own yet, because I just, I didn't feel that calling. And now I have such a unique point of view that I'm like, I have this talent that I can share with others through my art. And so now, and because I have the design degree and I have stuff to back it up, like I know I have the potential to reach a lot of people. And so now I'm doing the whole Instagram thing, and I'm trying not to get caught up on how many followers and likes, because I'm so like small right now. And I'm just trying to remind myself of it's okay to reach for more and to not try to put myself small because I don't want to have that ego, and I don't want to feel like I'm a know-it-all. And so it's like this balance of being like prideful and proud and knowing my intention is so pure and good because I know I can reach somebody. And it's just reminding myself, it just takes that one person. If I change that one perspective, that gosh, it is just such a hard balance of, am I playing too small, or I don't want to be boisterous. But if I'm not, and I don't tell people, then how are they going to know? It is just like, I apparently need to keep working on it because it just keeps coming back up. So yeah, it's just, this was a good message to like jump in on just here. Yeah.
It's one for all of, I mean, you know, I love the saying, numbers never end. So, you know, if we're chasing numbers, they never end. It's like the podcast, for example, you know, it gets, you know, right now, 10 to 15,000 downloads a day on average, somewhere in there. Right. Sometimes 20,000. Right. And it's, you know, that's top 5% in the world in size of, you know, there's millions of podcasts. I think there's like a couple million or something. And so it's amazing, right? It's really, and compared to Joe Rogan, it's like Joe Rogan gets that many in like a second or something. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know what it is, but he gets tens of millions, maybe even 100 million, something crazy. You know, one episode has more downloads probably than all of 600 and some of mine, you know? And so it's like numbers never end. And then to someone else to be where I am is like the pinnacle, you know, the pinnacle of like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine. And I'm like looking at someone who's, you know, 3 times bigger than me and saying, oh gosh, like, why am I not there yet? I deserve to be there. I'm as good as that. Oh, where I'm doing this Zoom and there's only a few people on it. Is that good or is that bad? Is there something wrong?
Wow, like, why is everybody else not on here? You have that many people that are downloading,
I know.
And there's 5 people. Like, why are you not jumping in on this? Like, look at this crazy opportunity. So it's so funny that you put it in that perspective, because I look at, you know, you or, you know, Erica, and I'm like, look at all these people they can impact, and they're so lucky they get all these people they can impact. But there's always, like you said, there's always going to be somebody that's doing more, or you know, the number thing. But it just comes back to, like you said, it takes that one person to see it, and then they like spread that seed. You know what I mean? Like that little bit that just flows and keeps going.
Yep. And so for me, it's like, if I can say, okay, this is actually really positive, how intimate this is. And is there a reason energetically that it's this way or that way? I'm sure there is. Oh, can I feel into that more? Oh, maybe I don't put as much, you know, thought, or I'm not promoting it a lot, for example. I'm not putting it out there, whatever it is. You know, I think sometimes it's like, if the more I see my own energy is divided, you know, the more the results are divided with different things that I do too. So it's, it really is an interesting thing. Then I say, oh, okay, well, it's whatever it is. Well, you use this as an example. It's because that's what's best for me. That's the best messaging and experience I can have right now for my own growth. And, you know, and it's a reflection of something, and it's my job to figure out what it is and not judge it, and not, you know, but it's same thing. I mean, you take social media, same thing. So many people have way smaller shows than mine. I have way bigger social media influences. Well, I haven't put in the work there that you should. I haven't, you know, and it's like, I always have this part of me that's sort of like, and you got to be careful with it. It's like resisting, like, oh God, as soon as someone tells me this is the way it's supposed to be done, I'm like, there's a part of me that revolts, you know? It's like, oh, I've got to do the cookie cutter clip every time. And how about I show my neighbor taking out his garbage and like his dirty tennis shoes? I'll do that post. That sounds fun. Like, you know, it's like,
it's so funny. I feel like, especially because like I'm, you know, my 6-year-old's like, I really need to go potty.
Oh, me too, actually.
I just love how they lighten everything up. Like being older, I'm like 35, so I had like a traditional graphic design degree, but then now like I'm forced to, like, I have to use social media, I have to do that, I have to do all those things to stay current and to stay in it. And I'm just like, no, I don't want to. Like, I don't want to do that just to appease the algorithm or whatever. And so that's where I go back to, like, no, do what feels right. Lead with those good intentions. And this, I just so needed to hear this, because I was totally getting wrapped up into what time do I need to post? And, how does it seem to, like, yes, I can pay attention to the aesthetics because I enjoy that, but just getting too wrapped up in all those other things is what sucks all the joy away, and it's like, it's the whole point of my intention. So I'm like, who will see it, will see it.
Yeah, that's right. And that's where the work is. That's where the lesson is. It's like I remember my band when we formed, many, many years ago now. But man, at first we were just young and so creative and inspired to be doing something like making music, like, wow, like we're doing this, and it was like so innocent and pure and creative. And then you fast forward, 6-7 years in towards the end of our time together, and it's like, oh yeah, we got to make it, we got to get a big record deal, we got to, our bass player's brother is in No Doubt, and what are we doing, and did you see these guys, did this, and then it took all the joy away, and it was just like, it became a job, it became work, it became stressful, it became, and so if you want the path to success, is I feel like when someone really gets that I'm doing this for the pure joy of doing it. And yeah, could I have some expectations or some intentions to create and reach more people? Absolutely. But what is my relationship to that expectation? Is it healthy, or is it based off of, some BS? And so that's really, and I think once you can really, it's like in that, I always think of that, there's a meme with Bob Marley laughing. He goes, when you finally realize you can have everything, once you realize you need, how does it say it? Once you realize you need you need nothing to have everything. And it's like, he's like cracking up like, oh my gosh, that's it, and getting there is definitely a dance though, for each of us in our own way.
I'd love to say one thing about that I think is really interesting. Like when I first started listening to the podcast, maybe like, what was it, like 5 years ago or something, 2016. I just remember being like, oh my God, I'm like, first off, I'm not crazy. There are other people who think like me. And then second off, I was like, I want to share this message, and I need to like get all these, like the numbers thing. And like, I'm going to be like the next big thing and going to change all these people. And it's so funny, how life will, show you humility really quick.
Yeah.
And, like kick you down and do what you got to do. But like what I really discovered in that process was like, the path of like really being in service and of relationship, and like watching that just play out. Like now that I have this EFT, like having this amazing session with a friend who's like a big coach in the spiritual world, and giving her a session and just like watching her like actually like she cry and like make it be like, oh my gosh, because she had this decision to make, she didn't know which one to make, and she actually like figured it out in that session. And
wow.
Like, whoa, like whoa. And
what's the ripple of impact of that, right?
I don't know, but like that makes me just like, oh my gosh, that's all I need.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, it's like the thing, who's more important, Gandhi or Gandhi's grandmother who helped raise him, and led to him being who it's like, you never know who you're impacting. And, getting caught up on the numbers is like, it's like, do you want, 100% of 1,000 companies, or would you rather have 1% of Amazon? Like, you know what I mean? Like what, it's silly when you think of it in those terms, right? So yeah, it's really inspiring to know, if I'm just being pure and authentic, then I'm actually going to find the most impact, because the universe is very efficient. It's like, I remember Teal Swan, when she was on the podcast, she said it well, like she said, the universe is basically that. I mean, paraphrasing, I don't remember exactly, but the universe is extremely efficient, and you are an extension of the universe. And if you have a gift or you have something that it can use to evolve itself, as long as you're not standing in the way of it, it's gonna find a way. It's gonna find a way to use you as the tool. You just got to get out of the way of with all this other BS and blockages. It's efficient. You are a part of it. You are an extension of it. And if it's like me having my hand. It's like I'm going to use this tool if it's as long as it isn't getting in the way so that I can't when it's appropriate. And so you have gifts. You are a hand of the universe. It's going to find a way. Just get out of the way with all these stories that are ego-based stories that we've been sold on and raised to believe, determine our self-worth. Once we can unlearn that BS, then the universe is going to naturally find a way to use what you got. It's too efficient and intelligent not to.
So good.
Feels good to know that, right?
So good. So empowering.
Yeah, it really is. It's that whole idea of like, you're not really here to learn anything. You're here to unlearn the shit that's standing in the way of what you're, that will naturally flow you to your right place in the world. Like you don't go to the top of a mountain and see a tree from the desert and a giant oak or you'll see this certain type of pine tree that grows at this elevation. It's going to, what you are is going to naturally go to where it's supposed to be if you're not doing a bunch of unnatural stuff.
Absolutely.
Whew. This has been good chat. I can't believe we're almost at an hour. That went fast. Wow. Anyone else, as we sort of wind down here, got anything that they want to cover or share? Or
I'll be happy to weave a few things together as I've been listening. I was so happy you mentioned the RIP, Ripple of ROI. Excuse me.
Yeah, the true ROI. Yeah, this true ROI, Ripple of Impact.
Yeah. Yeah, I had written that down before you said it, which is actually an example of what I'm about to talk about. Leadership is really allowing things to just flourish around you, through you. It doesn't matter where, inside, outside, doesn't really matter. So I wrote down 4 words: leadership, that Corey brought up. I also wrote down education, which is, educate is to pull from within to without. So I have a background in education. And the fact that you mentioned being in service, Corey, that's huge. So to me, a leader is like being in many places at the same time, but to simplify it initially, it's like you're the hub of this wheel. So whatever the overall intent or purpose, whether it's healing or whatever, you are a leader if you're at the hub of the wheel and making sure it's moving forward. But the ripples of impact are it's like popcorn popping around you. So somebody else is going to say that was my idea. Like, Brandon said ripple of impact. I was going to say, it doesn't matter. It's like everybody is supporting everybody else. And it's like everybody is, the best leader helps everybody else lead in the way that really taps into their talents at that given time and helps them explore new ones and say, well, I've got to start on that one, but yeah, let's pull that one back and I'll still do this for the time being. There's just so many things flowering simultaneously. It's definitely a mandala that's moving forward based on what you're doing. So being in service, though, to me is the heart center part of it. Everything else is a little bit technical, inside, outside. That's kind of like positional and leadership. I'm doing this role and you're in that role. But being in service, if everybody's being in service and you're the hub of that wheel, so a good leader is going to at least help coordinate. And if people are like getting off target with what the overall purpose is, help bring them back gently without insulting them or people that are supporting them. There's just all these different currents and cross currents that a good leader being really in that center is just helping enhance all of these processes without saying, it's really me doing all this. No, I mean, I've had experiences with quote unquote gurus, from Swami Rama way back in the 70s up to Sadhguru like 12 years ago, and lots of others. And again, even with Osho, it's like there's some downsides, but if they're really, when they were really doing their most magnificent work, they were just putting it out there in service, and things, people were growing and so forth. So when it goes a little haywire is when that person is either getting a little too egotistical or whatever. So
yeah,
hopefully that'll help.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great ad.
I really liked how you talked about the mandala, because that's a big thing that's been coming up for me. It's just like the idea of Aquarian leadership, where everybody is the leader, in like a mandala kind of way, where we're all a point on this kind of like spiraling out piece, and each one is a web, and take one out and they all fall. So it's just a beautiful kind of concept to think about. Like, I am a leader and you are a leader, and can we empower each other to lead ourselves and the world? Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, like the quote here, check this out. Roy T. Bennett: great leaders create more leaders. Good leaders have vision and inspire others to help them turn. Good leaders have vision and inspire others to help them turn vision into reality. Great leaders create more leaders, not followers. Great leaders have vision, share vision, and inspire others to create their own. And it's like, oh, bam, that's so good. Roy T. Bennett quote. And yeah, and it's back to that service thing we talk about. I talk about all the time on the podcast, like back to Gandhi, if you're going to find yourself, lose yourself in the service of others. Why does it hold true? There are no others. So if you can start to say, okay, the more I lift Corey up, the more I'm going to win. The more I'm lift Jonathan up, Rachel, Lane, everyone out there listening to this recording, it's like, it takes away more from, look how self-important Brandon is and how great and how smart, that just feels icky as soon as you're doing, when anyone else is doing it to you, it feels icky. Like, why do you want to go there? It's not even that, it's not cool. Like, it's not even cool. Like, get over yourself, So, and don't diminish yourself either simultaneously, finding that balance. Find the sweet spot there. That's sexy. Well, this has been awesome, guys. Thank you for co-creating this. And, it's honestly, it's such a great message. It's like, I love the whole, we teach best what we most need to learn, and just like, just grounding all this in further for myself, because I'm so in the middle of this numbers never end thing. And, even down to this being the smallest one of these. And even if it's just me and one other next week, it's a win, because our next month, because it's just, this just really grounds that in. And is it bad or is it good that I get to connect so intimately with just a few of you? It's wonderful, it's like such a special thing. And so I'm so appreciative of you guys showing up and taking the time to do this. And, those out there listening to this recording, if you want to get in on next month's, we'd love to have you too. We wouldn't be opposed to 500 of you being here next month. And we ain't attached to it either. 55, we can say all the numbers, and any of them would be fine. But I really haven't put it out there that much or talked about it that much. But if you go to goldenkey.gift and you check out the Zoom key conversations, that's where you can sign up for this. And it's a great way to help support the show and spreading all this stuff as well. And get in on the connection here with us next month. And we also have the date on the site each month on goldenkey.gift when it's going to be happening, and you get notified via email once you register, etc. So, once again, thank you all. You are such beautiful reflections. Corey, big congratulations on the EFT training. That's a big deal, and hopefully I can get a session from you one day in 3D when we meet.
Ooh,
that'd be cool, huh?
That would be amazing.
Let's make it happen. And so it is.
Definitely. I'm in.
All right. Let's do it. All right, everyone. Well, have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. And till next time, journey well. Also, before we sign off, I wanted to remind you to download the Golden Key audio or ebook as my free gift to you at goldenkey.gift using the Golden Key code POSITIVEHEAD. And please, if you enjoy my gift, leave a positive review on Amazon so others can find the book and unlock their lives with the help of the Golden Key as well.